so much, and good morning, everybody. It is great to be here in Vienna. My name is Kit Gilbert, and I'm the Senior Director of Platform Go-to-Market Strategy and Operations at Niantic. And yes, that is a very embarrassingly long title, which we will move straight past, but all it means is that I get to play a part in building and bringing to market a vision for the future of spatial computing that I imagine many of you would share. It's one that connects us to the people and places that matter, rather than isolating us from them. And all of that is powered by a new map, unlike one that you've likely ever seen before. We call it the Niantic map. Today, we're going to be talking about why it matters, what it is, and how you can leverage it to make the real world a canvas for XR experiences. So before we go too deep, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I've been at Niantic for several years now, and I used to be based in London, which you can hopefully still tell from my accent, not too transatlantic twang just yet. And a major cultural difference that I've noticed in making that move between Londoners and West Coast Americans is cynicism. I naturally have a healthy, I would say, degree of skepticism over tech companies saying that they're going to change the world. However, when it comes to thinking about how I want to spend my finite time on this planet, it is on something that I feel I can say in a really sort of meaningful, authentic way has had a positive impact on people's lives. Niantic is that company, almost stubbornly, I will say. Our mission is to inspire people to explore the world together, and every day for the past 5+ years, I've seen us make decisions unwaveringly in service of that mission. As a result, over 100 million people play our games that augment our experience of the real world and forge real human connections within it every single year. And over time, those people have made more than 1.4 billion friendships. All of that has culminated in some very tangible positive impact on people's health. So Building H, which is a health indexing organization that partners with Stanford University, recently ranked Niantic as the top-rated company in the entertainment sector for its positive impact on health. So we do have some form in this area. This isn't just sort of lip service. It really shows up in the impact of these products. So how do we do it? As I said right at the beginning, maps are the secret sauce to spatial computing experiences that are good for us. Before I got involved in this space, I definitely didn't think that. I saw maps as something that represented our exploration of territory, of the boundaries that we drew between different nations. Now I believe that when combined with a little creativity, maps can be one of the most powerful technologies that we have for unlocking entirely new ways of connecting and experiencing different people and different places. And now Niantic and its founders have a pretty big role in enabling that by evolving maps over the past several decades. Most of us will have grown up with 2D maps like this one, which we used to use to give directions with variable degrees of quality to whoever was driving. And then we graduated to ones like this, where we were able to print off directions. But we did still have to print those off, which is something I suspect no one really does anymore, apart from maybe my mum, but in her defense, that is because Google Maps never really works on her phone. And if only I had an in with someone at Google Maps. It turns out I do. So Google Maps and Google Earth, they're what came next. They changed everything, and this is where our stories intersect. So you're all probably familiar with Niantic as the creators of Pokemon Go, but what you might not know is that we also created both Google Maps and Google Earth, or rather our founders did. So our origins date back to a company called Keyhole, and that was led by our founder and CEO, John Hanke. And for the first time, Keyhole made it possible to visit anywhere on Earth from a PC. That was an incredible feat of engineering at the time. Naturally, that caught Google's attention, who went on to acquire them, and that team then worked on the products that became Google Maps and Google Earth. But John's passion has really always been in using technology to deepen our connection to the world around us and to each other. So after a little bit of time, he started incubating an experimental unit inside of Google called Niantic Labs. Shortly afterwards, we spun out, and Pokemon Go was the major launch that you will have heard of that came pretty hot on the heels of that. Now, Pokemon Go was an overnight sensation, like most overnight sensations, built on a lot of hard work, and in our case, that was over a decade of mapping innovation. And it broke through not just because it was a fun game, although it is. If you haven't played it recently, I would recommend giving another try. It broke through because it fundamentally reimagined what a mobile game could be by unlocking the power of maps and augmented reality. Maps in Pokemon Go are not about getting you from point A to point B. They're about transforming point A and point B and everything in between into a world where fantasy is woven into the fabric of reality, where every corner, every landmark, every street becomes this stage for meaningful interaction and for magic. And through that, we learn a lot about what other magic needed to be invented in order for these experiences to feel as real as possible. So that is when we set about building out a world-class team of computer vision and mapping experts. And that was my first role at Niantic, was very involved in standing that up. We're now on role number 8, so let's see where that takes us to today. So today, we at Niantic are building the 3rd generation 3D map of the world that powers spatial computing. The Niantic map is a human-centric infrastructure layer which is made up of many petabytes of user-generated geodata. And it's built very much for computer vision, but it's also pretty stunning to the human eye thanks to the incorporation of Gaussian splats. So splats, which you're looking at right here, are kind of like highly immersive 3D photos, and they're the biggest breakthrough in computer graphics for decades. This map is what lets us turn the real world into a canvas for XR experiences. And it can power those experiences indoors and outdoors, in AR and VR, on mobile and headset. This is how we do it. So the way that it is built is what enables us to have this kind of interaction which feels incredibly immersive, connecting, and realistic. And it's built on these 3 kind of core attributes. And that is because for those experiences to reach the level of fidelity and immersion that we're all aspiring to, digital objects, of course, have to behave in a way that feels real for all of us together. If they don't, that magic is broken. So the first kind of attribute that we focus on is understanding. So with the Niantic map, we don't just know what you're looking at, we can also say with centimeter-level precision exactly where you are in space and what your 6th degree of freedom orientation is. The second characteristic is persistence. So the map enables digital content to persist in real space just as if it was a physical object, which creates a lot of potential for, again, believability and connection. And the final characteristic is social. Social is something that we spend a lot of our time thinking about in Niantic. It's very core to who we are and the types of products that we want to put out into the world. So as well as powering the kind of asynchronous shared experiences that persistence is all about, we also enable you to have real-time shared experiences in AR, so an action that I take affects what you can see on your screen and vice versa. And it's this combination of these attributes which makes the XR experiences powered by the Niantic map feel like fantasy woven into reality. So I've talked in a lot of very vision-y terms about our vision for spatial computing, why it matters, and how the map makes it possible. But part of my role is operations, as you may remember from the beginning. I do see $signs everywhere I look, thinking about the efficiency or lack thereof of what we're doing. So I do care very much about the business side of things. To deliver on that vision, we need to make it practical for developers to build it. And we've spoken to thousands of developers over the years, including our own teams who know a thing or two about what it takes to deliver a commercially successful XR experience. And what we hear time and time again is that it's often really difficult to make these tools that you need sufficiently integrated that that's a sort of efficient workflow for you. Or they're too complex to get up to speed with. That is another kind of common refrain. Or it's not visual enough. You know, you're creating a spatial experience, but you're writing it in code, and there's a disparity there. So let's switch gears. We've been talking about fantasy made reality. Let's start talking about business and how we can help developers build these kinds of experiences in a way which is ultimately efficient, as well as delivering on the overarching vision. So we do this by providing you with the integrated tools that you need and services to capture, locate, and augment. Capture is all about creating that map which is perfectly suited for computer vision, and Niantic Scaniverse is at the heart of this. So Niantic Map provides you with a huge data set, we'll come on to how huge in a second, of ready-to-use locations, but you can also add your own using Scaniverse. Our latest update, Scaniverse 4, makes this process faster and more accessible than ever. Using on-phone Gaussian splat processing, anyone can process a high-fidelity 3D scan in about a minute. Why does that matter? It matters because imagine that there is a location you want to build an experience around, you go out, you capture it, you're feeling pretty good about it, you go home, it's only then that you upload it and you see that you missed a spot. You need to go back out. I'm not a very patient person, so apart from anything else, I couldn't really be bothered to do that. But it's also just so long. That is very time-consuming, and it kind of makes it a bit of a non-starter. Scaniverse erases that as a problem, because you're able to see in situ, in the moment, whether you've got that scan in the way that you want it. And you can also share these scans on a global map for others to discover. And the flip side of that, of course, is that you can then look at what other people have posted. I have spent more time than I would care to admit scrolling through places that people have discovered from all around the world, and it could spark a lot of ideas for experiences that you might not have thought of, because again, you have access to that huge data set of locations as well. We're trying to make joy scrolling catch on here, and I am dubious about that, so interpret that however you wish. And in turn, or the final point rather, is that this is also unlimited and it is free. So there's no limits on how many of these that you can take and how many of these that you can publish to the map. In other Scaniverse news, a few weeks ago, we announced an integration with our partners at Snap. You can now import your splats from Scaniverse into Niantic Studio and let yourself kind of experience any memory, any moment, any place directly within Snap Spectacles. We have a Peridot booth where you can also experience one of our own games called Peridot on Spectacles themselves, so come by and check it out. So what is new for AWE EU? We couldn't come empty-handed. First of all, we are open sourcing the SPZ file format that we created. This is kind of like a JPEG for Splat, so you still get the same stunning fidelity, but with about a 90% smaller file size. We gave a little preview of this news at an AWE night in SF last week. People were super excited about it and slightly relieved, I will say. So I'm really excited to share that we are announcing this today as well. The next point is one that is particularly close to my heart. One of the use cases we've seen for Scaniverse that really resonates with people is capturing locations for cultural preservation and humanitarian storytelling. So we're partnering with OpenStreetMap's Missing Maps initiative, which supports NGOs delivering relief and development programs before and after crises. So in addition to making a direct contribution, we are also going to be donating $1 for every splat posted to the map from now through November 30th, up to $30,000. So if you do not already have the Scaniverse app, please get out your phone, scan this QR code, and start capturing. Vienna is a fabulous place to do it. It's a stunning city. We'd love to see what you find and post to the map. And you can now be part of creating the shared 3D map of the world and contribute to a good cause, the Missing Maps Foundation, from now through November 30th. Okay, so you've captured locations using Scaniverse. Now you're going to want to be able to transform those into the kinds of digital experiences that we were talking about at the beginning. To locate your user in physical space, if you're creating an AR experience, you're going to want to use the Niantic Visual Positioning System, or VPS. GPS, as I'm sure most of you in this audience will appreciate, is just far too imprecise for the kinds of high-fidelity experiences that we're aspiring to produce. You'll have all had that experience when you're in a built-up urban environment, it can't quite see where you are, and by design, it isn't precise enough to have the kind of precision that we are talking about here. So VPS works differently. The clue being in the name of Visual Positioning System. It queries an image that you send off of your phone to this 3D map of the world that we have, the Niantic map, to tell you with high reliability where a user is and what their 6th degree of freedom poses with that centimeter level precision. And that precision, combined with the geospatial intelligence that our map provides on what you're looking at, can provide an endless variety of experiences. This is a building that I walk into every single day at work. It is the Ferry Building. And I could have a different kind of experience here every single time if I wanted to. Using the information that we can tell from this, plus VPS, I could have kind of practical guidance like this. I could learn about the secret history of the building. I could play a life-size game in a way that looks like it's completely blended in with this environment, and it would feel real. The map can power all of those, so a lot of different use cases. Now, Niantic VPS is your best bet for localizing and orienting users with that centimeter-level precision, but there is more. It also supports continuous relocalization, so it tracks a user as they move through space, not breaking that sense of immersion, just as they move to a different area. And because the 3D map that VPS queries is built from millions of user-submitted scans, that data is then super diverse and fresh. And that means that the map is very robust at scale. That is something that we've seen developers struggle with a number of other solutions that we've looked at, that scalability of the Niantic map, because it's powered by this incredible volume of user-generated content, really erases that problem for you. And you can leverage it using Unity, web, and native clients, and at a pretty incredible number of locations. I am super excited to share that the team has now got us to a point where we have VPS activated at nearly 1 million places globally, and thousands more added every single day. Plus, you can, of course, add your own using Scaniverse. So this makes it the world's largest data set of locations mapped for this kind of high-precision localization. And again, thinking about where that data is coming from, we know that these are places where people enjoy having these kind of shared augmented reality experiences. These are hotspots for exactly that kind of activity. So if that is something that you are building, this is the perfect map for you. So we've captured, we know how to locate. Now it's time to create and augment. As I mentioned earlier, we are very focused on giving developers an integrated workflow to build these experiences more efficiently. So that means bringing together Scaniverse, Niantic VPS, and the final piece I'm going to be speaking to you about today, which is Niantic Studio, because as I said earlier, this is about business too. Niantic Studio is the tool for creating real-world WebXR experiences. It includes both a visual editor and a web gaming engine that are heavily optimized for building cross-device, location-based experiences. That focus on cross-device is very intentional. It's about enabling developers to cater to the more open, emerging headset market, where again, these experiences are often shown off at their very best, while still being able to work within the more mature mobile market. So it really de-risks that transition for you, because you can develop for both without extending your development timelines to match. And our focus on the web is all about enabling developers to distribute to anybody in the world with a browser, hugely expanding your addressable audience. Again, we care about business. So this video that you're about to see shows you this full loop of capture, locate, and augment in action. Here you can see our very own Ian Curtis. Get used to his face. He's in a lot of our videos, and follow him on social media for very inspiring XR content. Capturing a location in Scaniverse. He processes that pretty quickly, and he has this stunning high-fidelity splat he's bringing into his intuitive visual editing environment in Studio. And he can then build a game around that location. Again, he can really see what he's doing. He's then able to go back out to that physical location and play that experience. The magic of what you've just seen is that that same experience will work in AR on a phone using VPS and VR in a headset using splats. How is it possible? You're probably slightly sick of hearing this by now because of the map. The same underlying data powers both of those experiences. So you can author against a splat in Studio or use Studio's new VPS for web integration to build, test, and deploy location-based experiences around the world in a single tool. And you can do all of that without having to leave your desk. So VPS, this is the big news, was previously accessible to you via code, and it's now available directly within Studio for far more visual, intuitive development. So you can explore these nearly 1 million VPS-activated locations directly within Studio. You can select and directly add VPS messages to the Studio viewport, and you can visually place and adjust content in real time. And the part that people get particularly excited about is that you can test from your desk with our remote testing capabilities. So that's one thing that's been quite challenging for these real-world XR experiences, is needing to go out into the real world to test them every time that you build upon it. This time, you don't need to do that anymore. And then, of course, you can deploy that experience anywhere with cross-device deployment. So VPS in Studio and Splats in Studio, which are these two kind of location-based superpower features, are underpinned by Studio's two core components that are all about letting you build location-based experiences intuitively and with realistic interaction. So those are its visual editor and its game engine functionality. That real-time visual editor lets you see what you're building as you're building it, closing the gap between ideation and visualization. The web gaming engine is what lets you add interactive elements, including physics, cameras, lighting, particles, animation, and game triggers with just a few clicks. And it simplifies complex development tasks with familiar gaming components. as well. So, what is new for Studio? In addition to fully integrating VPS for Web into Studio, we are running a real-world developer challenge. You can sign up and build with Splats or VPS for a chance to win from the $15,000 prize pool. That is open now, and it's running through till November 9th. And coming soon, and I'm excited to say, hot off the press, it's actually coming tonight. We didn't want to sort of overpromise, underdeliver, but the team have pulled it out of the bag. We are fulfilling a long-time customer request for backend services, and that makes Studio a full-stack solution. So that includes secure proxies for storing secrets and proxying requests to third-party APIs, as well as serverless functions for building backends for your Studio projects. So, pull out your phone to scan this QR code and join the 13,000 and counting creators who've signed up since launch. It is free to use as well, so there are no limits on how far you can experiment with it and use those really high-powered location-based functionalities to build your real-world XR experiences that you can reach or use to reach anyone in the wild with a browser. So that is a taste of what we are building, why and how you can use it. But before we wrap up, I wanted to share a Vienna-based experience with you that brings a lot of this together. The Belvedere Museum, like a lot of cultural institutions, was dealing with the challenge of how do we engage younger audiences. So to address this, they teamed up with our good friends at Orb Amsterdam to launch the fantastic Pelastics, which is an AR game with a goal of bringing the museum's history to life in a fun and accessible way. That game lets players use AR to explore the museum's historic gardens, to search for clues and rescue lost animals. And it's a brilliant example of that seamless blending of the digital and the physical worlds that we're all aspiring to. The success of that game has led to an expanded vision, with the Belvedere now planning to bring the AR experience inside the museum as well. So, 3 things to leave you with. First, if you, like us, want to build a version of spatial computing that connects us to each other and to the places that matter, rather than separating us from it, check out Scaniverse, go out and capture the world around you. It is free, it is fun, and it is probably better for your brain than other apps that shall remain nameless. 2, sign up for Niantic Studio, also for free, and get experimenting with Splats and VPS. We've got Niantic Studio experts at our booth on the expo floor. Please come see Charlie, come see Evan, and they can show you how to build your own real-world WebXR experience, which you can distribute to anyone in the world with a browser. And while you're there, make sure that you check out our very own experience, Peridot, on Snap Spectacles. And if you take one thing away today, I mean, hopefully some of that, but if you take one thing away today, let it be this. As someone in this room, you're playing a defining role in figuring out what is spatial computing. What is the technology? What are the kinds of experiences that it's going to drive? And that means that you have a choice over whether we are leaning into connection or away from it. There are 2 pretty clear paths that we can go down. At Niantic, we are leaning into it. Rather than trying to get people to escape reality, we want to help them experience it in a richer way by weaving fantasy right into the fabric of reality. And we hope that you will join us. Thank you.